Hi there, everybody. This is John Drew here from Elevated Planet.
And Jolie Gabrielle here from Elevated Planet. Thank you so much for joining us on this Sunday. We're so grateful you decided to tune in to our show. We have a lot of good stuff in store for you, and John is going to tell us a little more about it.
Thank you, Jolie. Yeah, we're being consistent really with recent shows as well. So last week when we had Jim Self and Pam Gregory talking a little bit, Jim in particular talking about what is about to happen around us now in terms of the significant changes which are going to happen during the course of this year. So this is important because we're setting the scene for the next few months. And of course, the joy of that also is that if this turns out to be deluded nonsense, you will also know that very quickly as well. But today we have Gregg Braden. We love Gregg Braden. As you probably recall, I went over to a retreat over in Sedona with Gregg back in May and June this year. And the man is fantastic. I love who he is. I love what he does. So he's a very special guy, and he's here for a very special reason. And he too is helping to prepare humanity for what is happening in the world right now. So without further ado, we're going to just dive straight into this first little section here and give us a little bit of a course for discussion. So if you bear with me a second, I am going to switch screens and we will be on our way.
We all talk about being connected by a field. In our genre, in our community, that's common knowledge. We just say, oh yeah, there's a field that connects all things. Not so for science until the year 2012 at the CERN superconducting supercollider in Geneva. They found that there is a field that underlies all of existence. And this is where it gets really, really interesting when we talk about consciousness, because we are literally the field. Every cell, the average human has about 50 trillion cells in the human body. Every one of those 50 trillion cells has about 100 trillion atoms. And here's the mind blower. Those atoms right now, with everyone, you and me, those atoms are constantly emerging from that field and collapsing back into the field in a dance. They emerge from that field to fill in the space of the template that I call the Gregg show. Our consciousness is holding this energetic template in place. And so the beauty, James, is if something is happening in our bodies that we're not happy about, it is literally, it is malleable, and it can change in a heartbeat when we change the consciousness that holds that template in place. Those atoms will emerge and fill that new template. This is how we create miracles. This is how we create miraculous healings, or what some people call spontaneous healings. And it has a lot to do with human potential, because we have been conditioned to believe that we are frail, flawed, powerless victims in a world we have no control over, and that we need something outside of us to become the best version of ourselves. And now with our own science, the best science is telling us is that we literally are a soft technology. There's a part of us that is timeless, it is ancient, all-knowing. It's the source of our love and our forgiveness. I'm going to use a word that means different things to different people, and then I'll define that word. All of those things we're talking about, consciousness and the ability to access these extraordinary potentials, they are part of what is called human divinity. Now, divinity for many people is associated with religion. And I can see why. I mean, there's schools of divinity, you know, that have been, but the definition, if you look up the definition of divinity, this is really interesting. Divinity is the ability to transcend perceived limitations, and that's it. Now, so let's break this down. The ability to transcend, it means not just survive, but to become more than. Perceived limitations, they may not even be real. They are the limits that we have been programmed or conditioned, or that we have been falsely misled into accepting for ourselves. They may not even be real. So when we can become the best version of ourselves, the full expression of our humanness, That is the expression of divinity, and the soul is expressing through those divine processes. This is where it gets really interesting. And how do we access that divinity in this world? In the earth realm, it is through the gift of this magnificent vessel that we were given to walk this earth. It is the antenna on the surface membranes of the cells. It is the antenna of the DNA. It's the antenna of the neurons that are tuned to the places in the field that hold that essence of what we call soul or consciousness and divinity. And there are a lot of nuances going on there. But here's why this is so important for us to know. A lot of people think, okay, well, that's interesting. It has nothing to do with my life today. It has everything to do with life today, because there is a concerted effort. There has been for 200,000 years, from the time that we first emerged onto this planet. There has been a concerted effort to separate us from our divinity. It's always been there. The reason I'm mentioning it now, what has changed? Here's what's changed. And we're all part of this. We're all feeling this. Technology has now advanced to the point where the technology is not just changing the world around us, James, but the technology for the first time is changing the world inside of us, replacing computer chips in the brain, chemicals in the blood, sensors under the skin, wires inside the cerebral cortex of the human brain. And these are not part of our natural evolution. There's a concerted effort to replace our humanness with these machines. When we do that, what we do, if we don't have the antenna of the DNA and the cell membranes, we cannot access our divinity.
You know what? There's one thing that I've found really consistently over these last few months, and it is about these perceived limitations and our ability to transcend them. When I was at the retreat with Gregg Braden, you kind of realize all these perceived limitations, the perception is wrong. And also when I did the workshop, care of Viola Rose recently, the Drumvalo Melchizedek workshop, it's all telling us about how powerful we really are. And you start to realize this programming and conditioning that we've had throughout life is very misdirected, deliberately misdirected, because it deflects us away from, as Gregg puts it, our divinity, our ability to transcend these perceived limitations. So the fact is that, you know, this transhumanism movement, the idea of putting technology within the human body, it will prevent us from accessing who we really are. And there are those out there who have an agenda to make that happen. So, you know, this is why Gregg's message is so important. This is why Drumvalo's message is so important. It is to awaken people into remembering our true magnificence and our ability to do things that, you know, I mean, honestly, when I did that workshop, Awakening the Illuminated Heart, even though I've been doing this for over 6 years now in terms of immersing myself on the spiritual side, I still have to take a step back and think, wow, we are capable of that. Are we really capable? Yes, we are. And then you start to realize, wow, anyway, the bottom line is, you know, and tell you another little thing that came to mind today as well, when I was going through this material, the transhumanism thing. Interesting enough, Nostradamus was born, I think it was in 1506. And so he was coming out with his prophecies, you know, 1530, 1540, 1550. And one of the things he talked about a lot was the Antichrist and the time of troubles, which is effectively now. This is the time of troubles, these decades around right now. And he was very specific about what he saw. And one of the things he saw was the transhumanism movement, where the technology had risen to that extent. Now you think about this, right? Here's somebody back sort of, you know, nearly 500 years ago who was making these predictions about transhumanism. How would you even begin to imagine that? But, you know, he saw many things. He saw the Twin Towers and the attack on the Pentagon. He saw many things. He also saw many things that didn't come to pass. And part of his rationale for putting this information out there in the prophecies in the quatrains in the first place was to forewarn humanity so that they could do something about avoiding the worst of the outcomes. So, you know, timelines change, and, you know, much of what was prophesized 460, 470 years ago has not come to pass, and that's a very good thing. But, you know, it's a really interesting point. Now, here's the other thing. You know, the other thing that we're talking about with these courses like the Gregg and with Drumbelow and say Bruce Lipton and the likes as well, you know, it's talking about how powerful we are. And it's also about this mind-heart coherence kicking in, because the power of it, you know, see, we talked about before the toroidal field that we have, you know, this magnetic field that we have around us, because every single cell carries a magnetic charge, and together, you know, we have this magnetic charge, which actually it's important. The healthier we are, the stronger that field is. But what is really interesting is that, you know, we always think of it as the brain is important. Actually, the heart is the major important part of who we are. Is the first thing that ever gets developed as a fetus. It's the heart. Everything grows out of the heart. The magnetic field that is created from the heart is 100 times stronger than that of the brain. The electromagnetic field that is created from the heart can actually go out. They've measured it scientifically to go out 5 miles. And if you can imagine, it was being measured 5 miles. It's going to be bigger than that. You know, that just happened to be the extent of that particular experiment. It's really interesting. So I think it's really important that we understand exactly what Gregg is saying here. These perceived limitations are misleading, because we are bigger than that. We are better than that. And the likes of Drumbelow and Gregg and many more are helping us to kind of transcend, to find our divinity, to take us through this era that we're going through now. Jolie, what would you care to add?
What a beautiful message he's giving us, you know, of empowerment, to let us know that, you know, we are much stronger than what we have been led to believe. And that is just truth. And so let's work on that through meditation and connecting with one another by getting to know ourselves. Like, we're ignorant about how our body works, how our spirit works. So I think now is the time, and it's wonderful at this period of time. Although it may seem to be challenging, it's also a blessing. So let's make sure we stay in gratitude about it as well.
Absolutely. 100% agree with you there, Jolie. That's fantastic. Okay. Thank you. We are going to go to section number 2.
There's an ancient battle for our humanness. It is a fundamental battle between good and evil that has been playing out. I want to talk about how we use our divinity to transcend this fundamental battle, because I think it's important for us all in our everyday lives. But this battle plays out in ways when we steal human freedom, the freedom to imagine, the freedom to create, the freedom to express our love fearlessly, the freedom to forgive without expectation. Those are freedoms that are expressions of divinity. And when we are prevented from doing those things, that is a form of evil. There are many forms of evil playing out right now. So here's the thing, and this is what I think is important for everyone, from my perspective, to understand. There's going to be a time we'll do one of these programs, and I think this rough time we're in right now is going to be behind us. We're going through a little window of time where these fundamental forces are coming together now. We'll get through this. And I think what's important is to ask ourselves, what have we become in the presence of what life has brought to our doorstep? Because that's the battle of divinity. When the events of the world drive us to become something that we would never want to be in a million years, when we hate, when we express revenge, and we're seeing this on the political spectrum, we're seeing it on the religious spectrum. I have good friends, they're good people. When it comes to these issues, they succumb to these most primal instincts, and they're not proud of it, and they don't understand it. So here's the spiritual battle that's unfolding right now. What do we become in the presence of these things? What do we allow the events of the world to make us into? The events are going to be whatever they're going to be, but on the other side, what have we become? And this is where divinity, I think, is so important, because it tells us this isn't a battle that you win in a conventional battle where you're fighting against something. We don't want to win, we want to triumph. To triumph means to become more than that battle. And we do that by expressing our divinity in the presence of the fear and the hurt and the anger and the hate, even when it's not supported, with kindness, with kindness. These are the highest expressions of human divinity. So I think this is happening with everyone right now. We're all faced with this, and with our families, our friends, our communities. You're not going to change necessarily other people, but I think this is our test. It's a test to see what we allow the events of life to make us become. If we succumb to those primal instincts of revenge and hate and fear, or do we somehow transcend those? And that's what this fundamental battle between good and evil is all about.
I think really what is important right now is discernment about what we consume, whether it's through the media, food as well for that matter, but nevertheless, there's a rich diet out there of fear being served up on a daily basis, and we are asked to be drawn into the drama, and yet we do not have to be. And there's a lot going on at the moment which is designed to take us to that place where Gregg talks about, the fact that people will start to act in a way that they're not proud of because they've been drawn into the drama. And how do you do it? How do you transcend above these, very divisive kind of arguments that are going out there, the wars, the political battles that are playing out, and so much more? Well, one of the things I remember, we did this a few months ago, and I'm going to link this onto the recording for this event. Gregg talks about the gift of the blessing, which is a way of going through things which can be quite disturbing and finding a way to release it without getting drawn in and actually taking that path of divinity. And I think it's so important. The idea of triumphing versus winning. You don't, the winning means that there is a loser. That's a duality concept. So to triumph is to rise above it and to be better than whatever is going on. So to me, that is so important. So Jolie, what would you care to add?
Nothing, John. I think you summed it up quite nicely. So let's continue.
Thank you very much, Jolie. Very kind. Right, here we go. Section 3.
When we look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, what's so interesting, those are the oldest records of the Old Testament ever discovered. In Cave 1 in Qumran, in the first vase that they found, in the first scroll that they found. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It was the first scroll. It is called the War Scroll. It's a war between, and this is the exact translation, between the sons of darkness and the sons of light. Wow. That will play out until the end of this cycle of time. You and I in our community, whether we're aware of it or not, we are involved in this battle. And so I think it's an opportunity not to be angry and not to judge, but to discern and recognize what it is that we're offered that supports life-affirming choices and what denies life in our bodies, in the world around us, in our imagination, our creativity, all of these things. And all of a sudden, the events that are playing out that look so random, they begin to take on a new meaning because you see there's a purpose and there is an end. The purpose is to separate us from our divinity. The end is for us to triumph over that separation. And everything that we're seeing playing out is a part of that right now. So I just wanted to say that when you talk about soul and you talk about consciousness, It's through our bodies that we're able to access in this realm those things. And I think one of our deepest missions is to honor and preserve the vessel that holds the gift that allows us to bring our divinity into this world. We need to be healthier now than we've ever been.
Yeah.
Just because there's so much going on in the world, so much stress.
Okay, so right. Interesting. You know, this is all about the end of the cycle, you know, and this cycle, we've talked about this again. A lot of this information came through Drumbelow, Melchizedek, talking about the 13,000 year cycle. It's not exactly 13,000 years, it's like 12,824 and a half or something like that, but rounded to 13,000. That ended with Atlantis, the fall of Atlantis. Now this has reached the end of the cycle, which, as you go back to the Mayan calendar, right? 2012, everybody was saying it's the end of the world. It was the end time, according to the Mayans. But the reason was that it was the end of one cycle and the beginning of a next. Now, what actually happens around that, and Gregg has spoken about this. In fact, I think it was Gregg that I learned this particular fact from. But there is a 36-year period around 2012. So 18 years before, 18 years after. So if you look at exact dates, we're talking about, well, the changeover started happening on the 22nd of December, 1994, and it finishes on the 21st of December, 2030. So I suspect that things will have happened by then that will have given us some form of dimensional shift by then. I don't know, but at the end of the day, one of the things I do know is that the Mayans knew a thing or two. They were exceptionally advanced. During that time of Atlantis, they were the high priests and priestesses that used to be able to communicate between ascended masters and the general population. And you know, the Hopi Indians were part of the Mayans as well, as were the likes of the Incas and the Aztecs and various others that scattered in various directions, including out to Egypt at the time of the crisis or at the time of the cataclysm. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to mention here was that, you know, Gregg talks about the importance of us being, you know, from a body perspective to be in our best condition for this time that is coming forward. Now, one of the things that when I was doing the workshop, the Drumbelow workshop, care of Viola Rose, one of the people who was in the group that you actually are taught through with is a gentleman by the name of Larry. I was very impressed by Larry, very switched on. He's a seeker of truth. Now, interestingly, Larry was 87 years old, and he was talking about this thing called the Zen cleanse, which he had done. And he was talking, he was just saying he'd lost pounds. He felt so much lighter. He got so much energy. I thought, I've got to find out about this. And as it happens, Viola Rose actually was able to lead me into all that. And we've got boxes for me and my partner. We're going to be doing this Zen cleanse thing. This is a 7-day cleanse. So I'm going to report back on that for Elevated Planet, because, you know, if anybody's interested in this, it doesn't come cheap, but there's a very good reason. And we're going to cover that off. I think maybe next week, we're going to talk about the work of Professor Emoto over in Japan with the water crystals, because it's an important point to make when it comes to Zen cleanse about why it is what it is. So anyway, that is enough for me to say on this particular section, but I will going to bring in Jolie.
Yes, Professor Emoto and his work is quite amazing with cymatics, and just back to the fact that we are absolutely channels of light and blessing, and we can be tuned and aligned with divinity. And that is such a beautiful thing. He talks about how, Gregg Braden, he talks about how you can change your perspective and then change your makeup. Let's try to do that. It's so fascinating. I know we have so much to do in our lives, but to imagine taking 5, 10, 15 minutes 3 times a day to sit in the energy that you want to create, to sit at the end of your journey, you know,
Yeah.
where you're in the beauty and and the magnificence of reaching your goals. Like, but everything, we've been put on ice, it seems like, right? It seems like that part of us has been put on ice.
Yeah.
So Gregg and all these greats, Ann Tucker, and these, they're here to help us thaw out. And some of the principles are go within,
Yeah.
work with you, start there, and just use your environment and start to make that magic. So the question we're trying to answer is the how. So let's keep going.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jolie. Here we go.
Spirituality in its truest form is very different from religion. So spirituality, and you've probably talked about this in other programs, I'll just define this now so that we can tie into this. In its truest form, spirituality is about relationships. It's about our relationship to our own bodies, our relationships to other people, our relationship to the earth, to the cosmos, to God, to the past, to the future. It's all about those relationships. And we are wired, biologically wired, to thrive and to adapt in the presence of everything that is coming at us. We just aren't told that very often. Religions came along later and wrapped the rules and the dogma around those pre-existing spiritual conditions, and people began to feel separate from their own power, from their own divinity by design. That's the purpose of the original purpose of many of the religions. There are good people that practice all of them, but the original purpose was to say that you can't talk to the divine, you can't talk to God, you need to go through an intermediary.
Gregg says has said it all, really. But yeah, the fact is, this is what I believe also to be true, is that, my studies of the last 6.5 years, which kind of make me into this novice of spirituality. But, you kind of realize that religion can be a really useful community to be part of, a heartfelt community. But there is something around religion which suggests that you need an intermediary, that you need a middleman to reach out to God, when, I really do not believe that is the case. We're all aspects of the divine. We are all aspects of the divine. That's who we are. We're immortal spirits having a human experience. We don't need a middleman. We are kind of part of that already. And I do think that this time that is coming up, it will change religions forever. I think this is part of what we're going to see over these next few years. And what comes out of it will be a real strength, but it will also, it'll hit people hard. Those who are very deep into their religions, it could be a real struggle. So, I totally get it. I totally get the fact it'll be a real challenge for many. And, this is just the way I look at things. I don't ask anybody else, if you regard it as deluded nonsense, then that's fine as well. But Jolie, is there anything you'd care to add?
Not at all. Let's just keep going.
Let's do that. Thank you, Jolie. Here we go.
The science shows very clearly the archaeological evidence, the anthropological evidence, the cultural evidence, and now the physical evidence that's being revealed through disclosure and congressional hearings all tell us that we have a relationship with a family beyond this world. All right, that's not a surprise to anybody here. And one of the reasons that the disclosure is so difficult right now is because of I don't think anybody cares if there's a flying saucer in Area 51. Nobody cares if there's a couple of gray beings, working on a keypad 7 levels below the surface. But it implies they didn't get here with a Dodge Ram V8 engine, in there. I'm just saying, that's just parked in my driveway is why I'm saying that. So it implies that they have technology that could change our world for the better, and that we've had it for over 70 years, and it has been repressed and it's been hidden. That is where a lot of the problem comes from. So I don't think they would do it overtly yet. I think covertly it's already happened. And this is one of the reasons I mentioned during the Cold War, there were 2 times that humans, through their anger, pushed the button for nuclear war, and 2 times that the technology mysteriously to this day, they don't know why it didn't work. And one of those was during the Cuban Missile Crisis. I'm sure we have people old enough to remember 1962. The United States believed that we had blockaded those missiles from coming into Cuba. It wasn't until the 90s that our former Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara, had a conversation with Fidel Castro through a translator. And he asked them, he said, if you had those weapons, would you have used them against America? And Castro answered him. And he said, well, it must be a bad translation. Ask him again. And so the translator asked again. McNamara's face turned white. He got up and left the room to compose himself, and he came back. And that was the first time America learned that the blockade didn't work, that Cuba had the nuclear missiles, and that Castro had ordered those missiles to be launched against America, and they failed. So I think, and I don't know this as a scientist, I'm not speaking to you now as a scientist, my personal sense, I think we're supposed to figure this stuff out on our own. I think, I believe we probably would not be allowed to destroy our planet because it would, the ripple effect in space, time, and dimensions would affect so many other forms of life. I don't know that it would be allowed to go that far. In the War Scroll, there are 7 battles that will be fought between the sons of darkness and the sons of light. The 7th battle is won by the sons of light with divine intervention. So the way that is interpreted, part of it is through our own divinity, but part of that is through however you want to couch this, whether it's heavenly beings, whether it's ETs and UFOs or whatever it is, another consciousness will intervene, and that will bring the reason they intervene is because it is the end of this great cycle and the beginning of the next.
So that's a really interesting section. You know, talking about disclosure and the congressional hearings that are going on and the work of Dr. Stephen Greer. Undoubtedly, he and Gregg have talked about these things a lot, is my guess. They're very much on the same wavelength. And it's about bringing forth the truth. You know, this is a disclosure time right now. Now, over these years, we will start to understand how information has been suppressed for many, many years. And we shouldn't be using fossil fuels. We hadn't needed them for the longest time. All this stuff starts to come to the surface. Our cosmic cousins, they've been amongst us since the dawn of creation, right? I mean, that's the way. We kind of think that, you know, human beings, I mean, people out there still believe that human beings are the only intelligent life in the universe. Well, you know, a lot of people maybe don't believe that as well. Anyway, so you know, my view on this, there is nothing to fear from our cosmic cousins. The ones who are here to help us with this time of transition. And it's a big deal. You know, what Gregg describes there as the Cuban Missile Crisis. And the fact is they did press the button, but it didn't work. And I find that really interesting because there have been a number of times. I mean, one of them was Project A119, which was a project that the US had back in 1958 when they decided to fire a nuclear missile at the moon, because it was some sort of experiment, but at the same time, it was designed to show the Soviet Union during this Cold War period that they were ahead in the space race. Now, if you look at what actually happened there, then the official line was that the project was never actually deployed. But in reality, what actually happened subsequent to the event is that decades later, people did step forward and say, oh, no, it did happen. It did happen. But they also knew that on the way to the moon, the missile was rendered useless by the extraterrestrials. And that doesn't surprise me at all, because if you look at, say, Rendlesham Forest, we've spoken about Rendlesham Forest a year or so ago, a year and a half maybe ago, when I had a couple of interviews with Derek Savory, who is no longer with us, unfortunately. He passed away earlier this year. But he was there in 1980 when there was this massive sighting of all around US Air Force Base and the Royal Air Force Base, which is based right there in Rendlesham Forest. And one of the things that happened there is that they had nuclear missile silos there full of nuclear warhead missiles. Weren't supposed to be there. Officially, they didn't have any there, but in reality, they did. And what actually happened with those UFOs is they went over the top of all those silos, switching them off one by one. You know, the message is pretty clear. You know, we don't need to be doing this stuff. And I don't know what the second event was that Gregg didn't talk about specifically, but I know about A119. I know about the Rendlesham Forest, but not that that was actually, the missiles were not being deployed. It was just to demonstrate to humanity and the armed forces that actually the ETs had the ability to power these things down, and there were things that they would not allow to happen. So I find this really interesting. Now, the last point there about the seventh battle between the sons of darkness and the sons of light, and divine intervention that steps in. So is this likely to be something similar? It certainly seems that that would be the case. Jolie, what would you care to add?
We just keep hearing over and over that there's magic everywhere. How do we access it?
Yes.
You know, like, what's the formula? I want to know. So let's just keep plugging away at this. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, yeah. And I do think that this is kind of like, as I said before, it's like with the Dromvalo thing, and also with Gregg and his work, and also Joe Dispenza and so many more. You know, we know that they're here to help us. They're here to help us to recognize our divinity and to step into it, as Jolie will do at the end of this particular section, which leads straight into the guided meditation visualization. So get yourself ready for that. That's coming up very shortly.
It's when the prophet John was looking forward and saw this last great battle between the sons of darkness and the sons of light. The location where that battle unfolds is in a valley near the Syrian border. And there's a hilltop when we go down, and I have to tell you, I cry every time I'm there. I don't just cry, I sob. Wow. Because it feels so real that this battle is there. And I think we're living in this, the time in this cycle where so many of our secrets are being revealed. And part of that is our divinity. And I'm going to keep coming back to this. I would say that there's something inside of each of us that is so rare and so ancient and so beautiful and so precious and so powerful that nations have gone to war with nations to distract us from this power. Mm-hmm. That economic systems have been collapsed to keep us from this power. Diseases have been unleashed. Climate has been engineered. Yes, those things are important. They're happening, but ultimately they become diversions and distractions to keep us from awakening this gift that is truly the answer to, I think, everything that we seek in our lives, James, because it's through our divinity. And I'll clarify this. It's through our divinity that we love fearlessly. And here's what I mean by that. How many of us, when we go to give our love to another being, whether it's in an intimate relationship or a friendship or whatever it is, we love to some degree, but we always hold something back because we're afraid. We're afraid of losing ourselves to something that we don't understand. Divinity, when we accept our divine power, we love without that fear. Forgive. How many of us forgive? We say, yeah, I'll forgive that person, but we expect something, some acknowledgement, or we expect something back from the forgiveness. True forgiveness has no expectation. And it is through our divinity, when we accept the power of divinity, that we're able to live and love and heal. This is where our healing begins. This is where the deepest truth of our imagination. What do we dare allow ourselves to imagine first, and then to bring in, to innovate in the physical existence of this world? Most people are afraid to even think about what's possible because they've been conditioned to fear their own power. So the better we know ourselves, the less we fear change. And man, we're in a world of change. The better we know ourselves, the less we fear other people. And this is important because we're being mushed together as a society in ways, with cultures and religions, in ways that we've never been mushed together before. And it's frightening for some people. But here's the most important part. The better we know ourselves, the less we fear our own power. And when we awaken the power of our divinity, once again, the definition, the ability to transcend perceived limitations, when we allow ourselves to become more than the fear of what we've been told, programmed that we cannot accomplish, that is when we awaken. This is how we transcend evil. Evil is preventing us. Evil wins when it prevents us from expressing our divinity.
That's great.
So you don't have to fight. Just be the best version of yourself, and you've transcended that evil and that fear. You don't have to get out there in the trenches and do this. Just live the best version of yourself on all levels.
That's
on
true.
all levels. So, this is unscripted. We didn't know where this is going to go tonight, but I think this is an important conversation because we're all being given reasons to be very afraid. And many of those reasons are coming through other people's perceptions that we trust, including governments, including healthcare practitioners, including well-meaning friends and family. I think everyone means well for the most part, but they're operating on a limited program. And when we look at those events, when we feel that fear, I think we owe it to ourselves to go into our hearts and say, what is it? What is it about this situation that threatens my perception of myself? What is it that I fear? And that opens the door to a lot of deep dialogue with the soul.
Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity to lead this meditation. So when you are ready and you're sitting down in a comfortable spot, you want to make sure you have back support of some kind so you can focus. I want you to bring your awareness to your chest, please, and begin to breathe with the rhythm of your body. Bring your awareness to between your sit bones now and ground your energy into Mother Earth. What do I mean by bring your energy there? Just focus on that part of your body and imagine, create, and visualize a grounding cord 6 inches in diameter of a natural earth element, and let the spirit do what it needs to do. No doubt. No, I don't know what 6 inches looks like. Don't worry about that. Command a grounding cord of a natural earth element that is 6 inches in diameter and connected to your first chakra to ground itself into Mother Earth and be 6 inches in diameter all the way down. Sit in your confidence and your power that you are allowed and permitted to do these things. Pull your aura in. Command that your aura be pulled in 1.5 feet around you. Your higher self, it is commanded, my higher self is at a comfortable distance above my crown, and it is commanded that my astral body is snapped in, period. You're going to call in golden, rose-shaped scrubbing bubbles to blanket the inside and the outside of your grounding cord. So get into the details of this visualization. Use your imagination and see these tiny little golden scrubbing bubbles. And what they're doing is they're scrubbing off any disease, any illness, anybody else's energy that you've taken on, any expectations, any lack of forgiveness, anybody who is not accepting you, any type of disease or illness you may be holding on to, we are cleaning it off the grounding cord. So we can have a divine connection to Mother Earth and receive her love and nurturing energy without interruption. Now, take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth, and open your feet chakras like you would the lens of a camera. Right in the center, the bottom of your feet. And you're going to call in 15%. It is commanded 15% earth energy of a color that resonates with you. Pulls in the bottoms of our feet, and travels up the side channels of our legs. And you're going to see and feel this beautiful life force move up the medial and the lateral sides of your legs. They move past the ankles, the shins, coming up past the knee. A little bit of that energy goes into the kneecaps. What is it? The meniscus, whatever those parts of the knees are. We want to get into those joints, moving up the side channels of the thighs, the femur, really seeing it get into all the veins, the ligaments, the muscles, the cartilage, all working itself into the bones as that network of veins lights up in your legs. And as that energy then moves into the hips, and a little bit of it does a U-turn, goes down the grounding cord, and the rest of it goes back down into the bottoms of your feet. We let this do its thing as we then bring our awareness to the crown of our head. And we open up that like we would the lens of a camera. And we are calling in. It is commanded 85% cosmic gold life force energy cascade down from the heavens through my higher self, my aura layer, into my crown. And it just waterfalls, cascades all into the folds of my brain, my cranium, my skull. All of that beautiful energy, that gray matter, is being filled up with the information and the love and the guidance from the divine. So now we get to work. Ego, super id, all the minions, you will default to the messages from my higher self. We move into the cerebral cortex. We work in the pineal, the pituitary gland. We get in that DNA and we say, hey, sequences of dis-ease and illness, we're moving you out. We're reprogramming you for health, well-being, financial prosperity. Hey, whatever fear is in this DNA sequence, we resolve and dissolve you on a history level. We cancel, pull, delete you on a soul core and genetic level. We send you back to Creator's light, replacing you here in the 4D realm, thought form, with unconditional love for others and self, unconditional forgiveness, starting with us, moving out. We see this DNA then replicate. What did he say? We have 50 trillion cells and we have 100 million atoms per cell, which makes up our consciousness. See this energy propagate and move and expand throughout your body as this energy then begins to focus itself down the spine, lighting up each vertebra, sending those messages into our system. As we program our mind with these positive affirmations of where we're going, take a minute and sit in the center of your head and feel the feelings of your success, of your well-being. I want you to see yourself there for a moment. And joyful, sitting around a table filled with your favorite foods, or running through the fields, or whatever it is. You're at the backyard of your beach house, or you are standing on stage talking to a crowd, whatever it is. See that for a minute. Sit in that energy as you breathe with the rhythm of your body. And this earth energy is running throughout your body, and that 85% cosmic gold mixes in. filling you up like water fills up a cup. Your grounding cord is being cleaned off and cleared of any disease and illness, moving out of your body as you sit in the energy of divinity and bliss. What does it look like for you? What does it feel like? Breathe it in. As that energy then moves down that spine, lighting up each vertebra, sending those messages out into your systems, network in the body, all those cells as it moves out into the aura layer and into Mother Earth. As that energy mixes in to your body, now we're going to call in golden rose-shaped scrubbing bubbles to clean off all 7 of your chakras. See them marinate, foaming all that negative energy off of you. All of the fear in the first chakra, all of the fear that may be in your body is now moving out and down that grounding cord, being filled up with that earth energy and that cosmic divine life force energy. Any of the guilt, shame, lack of forgiveness, any part of you that fails to speak your truth, any delusions, insanity, any things getting in the way of positive thought and your relationship with the divine is just foaming away as that gold light and that earth energy move that out and down the grounding cord. And the divine has stacked 8 golden suns above your head. Breathe with the rhythm of your body. I want you to see this. My silence is for you to see with your third eye this happening. And when you're ready, you're going to bring that first golden sun down and allow for it to move down that grounding cord, moving out all those golden rose-shaped scrubbing bubbles into the core of Mother Earth as they sizzle, turning into positive creative life force energy for anyone to use. You bring down 1 and you let it, that golden sun, extend and expand into 1, bringing in more safety, security, financial prosperity. You bring down 2, bringing in more creativity, sensuality, sexuality, support, branding. As that moves out any negativity, any lack of creativity. You got writer's block, move it out. Move in that creativity. Move in that 3rd golden sun and let that hit the solar plexus as it extends and expands. Moving out any shame from being seen, any shame from being heard, any shame from wanting the things that you want. Move it out and move in that personal power. I deserve, I am worthy. And so is everyone else around me. Move in that 4th golden sun and let it extend and expand into that heart chakra, moving out any disease, any illness, lack of forgiveness, lack of compassion and self-love, moving in lots and lots and lots of self-love. Sit there for a minute. Breathe with the rhythm of your body and allow for the self-love, all of the cells in your body that have now been programmed with all the positive energy. Now we're going to turn them heart-shaped. We're going to sit in our heart right now and breathe with the rhythm of our body. And once again, we are going to see ourselves at the finish line of our success, our health, our well-being. And not only that, we're going to see that for all of those in our lives. So take a minute and breathe with the rhythm of your body as you bask in the energy and the feeling of your success, of your well-being, and of that of those you love. Let your body know that it is safe for you to have these things, that it is safe for those around you to have these things, that it is safe for you to live amongst joyful people, divine people, humans and beyond, animals, plants, our galactic cousins. Breathe in the joy of togetherness, collaboration, openness, vulnerability, unconditional love. That is only a thought form right now. Let's move that energy out of our heart. Open your heart. Now in the heart, as you see and feel this energy, you're going to want to move it out of you and into your aura layer, because we know that beautiful earth energy and that cosmic divine life force energy is that magic. And once those cells have been programmed with that energy and we're moving it out of our heart, we are now manifesting. So sit in that feeling of you at the finish line, of your family, your friends, and those that you love sitting in bliss and their divinity, the highest human potential, as those 50 trillion cells with those 100 million atoms that are heart-shaped. And each of them are turning over and over again, creating this energy so that it creates a density so that these experiences become manifest. So move the negative out of your body and down that grounding cord and fill up with that golden sun as we move into 5 and we move out any deception, any exaggeration, any lies, any lack of us speaking our truth, moving that down the grounding cord and filling up with divine truth straight from the Creator. As we open ourselves up as channels of light and blessings, and we speak out divinity out of our mouths, creation out of our mouths, love out of our mouth. See that, see hearts, see music, notes moving out of your mouth and into the universe. Beautiful frequencies and vibrations lighting up your environment, waking up those around you, bringing them into a state of their own divinity. Speak your truth. Bring in that golden sun, align all those chakras, open up those channels as we move into the center of our head. And now those thought forms become real. Those beautiful, creative, successful, safe, confident, loving thought forms are now picking up energy and density and speed and creativity. And they're making their way out into the universe, rubbing up against all the other positive energies and frequencies, creating communities, creating cities, creating towns, creating neighborhoods, creating states, creating countries, all of this divinity, restoring it back into our environment and our world as that last golden sun comes down and fills up that 7th chakra, moving out any doubt that divine divinity exists, moving out any doubt that magic exists and we have access to it and we can utilize it for the betterment of ourselves and those around us. Let's shine a light, gold light, on where we live on this planet, in our environments. Let the corruption be revealed within us and the world, and let it be stamped out and replaced with divinity. It's that simple. Tell the truth. Be okay. Love, accept, forgive, and move forward towards creation. Take a deep breath in, exhale, and bring your awareness back into your heart. And I want you to feel that earth energy moving up the side channels of your legs now. But all of it is filling you up. As that 85% cosmic gold, I mean, it is like cooking with gas as it's sprouting out your feet, hands, and crown chakras, filling up your aura layer and oozing out into your universe and your environment and just bringing light. Everything it touches just grows, glows, and grows. Everything your energy touches just grows and glows. Zing! You're like this just beautiful beam of light as you then open that heart again and you connect with that toroidal field. So now you not only have an aura layer with the higher self standing at the power position, but you also have this beautiful grid of love surrounding you, just lit up like a rainbow of just joy and amusement, attracting in nothing but positive energy, high vibrations, success, prosperity, abundance, loving relationships, as that pyramid above the toroidal field and lights up, and that capstone connects with the heavens as that white light beams down and through Mother Earth through that pyramid, down through the higher self, down through the aura layer, down through your crown, down your spine, down your grounding cord, into Mother Earth, divinely connected as a being of light and blessings, receiving the messages from the divine and that nurturing, loving reality from Mother Earth. So one step is personal development and the other step is work. Personal development and work. Work meaning giving back. So now your steps are ordered. Your purpose and plan and your journey is clear. Your journey of divinity. As you take a deep breath in and you bring your awareness to your heart chakra and you feel this energy moving out and into your environment as your aura layer and your toroidal field just expands with love. It just expands, and everything around you and everything you touch is bringing you positive energy. So we're just going to call ourselves Midas right now, right? Spiritually. We're just lit up with divine life force energy. Breathe it in and breathe it out. You are now refreshed and renewed and reconnected to divine life force energy. Just sit in this beautiful gold light, Mother Earth energy, with all of you, all of your energy, all of the people and the places and the things you may have left them has been called back and purified and given back to you. So take a deep breath in. Exhale. And when you're ready, you can close your feet, chakras like you would the lens of a camera. If your brow is open, close that. Your hands, close that. And your crown, close that down. The white light remains, but the gold light's going to retract back to the heavens. The earth energy is going to go back down to Mother Earth as the rest of you stays intact, receiving those divine messages, as well as staying rooted and grounded in reality. As you move forward today as a channel of light and blessings for yourself and those around you in the highest and the best way with grace and ease. So take a deep breath in. Exhale. Allow for that energy to settle. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes.
And we're back. That was powerful, Jolie. Very
Good, glad. Thank you so much. It's truly an honor to do this.
Yeah, no, I think that was just what the doctor ordered. So thank you very much. That was beautiful. You know, I just got a feeling that we're on our way at the moment. We're transcending that mind-based duality and heading towards heart-based unity consciousness. That is where we ultimately get to, and to our world of unspeakable beauty. And
Yes.
we're going to get through a few dramas before we get there, because that is exactly what is supposed to happen, as Gregg has been telling us, you know, as has been told in every kind of ancient document that that predicts the future, all talking about this point in time now. So it's an honor to be here, even despite the fact that there may be stuff going on which is not the kind of thing you would choose. But actually, just remember, this is here for a purpose. This is the end of the cycle. This is setting us up for that heart-based unity consciousness, and it's a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jolie.
Thank you, guys. And if you guys like what you see, humbly, we ask that you please like, subscribe, and share some of this information so we can speed up the process of enlightening others.
Yes, very well said. Thank you very much. And anybody gets any questions, we've got the newsletter going out tomorrow, of course, and any questions for me or Jolie, if you can send them to johndrew@elevatedplanet.life, then we will be sure to respond to that. And just to say thank you as well to James Van Praagh and Kelly White, because they were the ones who were interviewing Gregg during that recording today. And you know, it is gratefully received. It was just this month, so it's hot off the press, and a fantastic message. So thank you to Gregg Braden too. And thank you, as Jolie said, to our Elevated Planet community again for tuning in. And we look forward to seeing you in a week's time. Take care.